welcome to Berries and Tea Instagram show. This is our second try to and connect Nancy to the show. It wasn't able to happen in the last try that we did it, so now hopefully she'll be able to join the live. Today's episode 17. We'll be talking about conscious communication and Kundalini Yoga. Nancy is a wonderful person, teacher, mentor who has guided me through my Kundalini Yoga experience, as well as so many other people, and she has joined. Try to send a request, Nancy, and let's fingers, toes crossed. Let's see if this works. Okay. Yes, yes, Nancy!
Satnam.
You gotta turn around your camera.
Should I be the other way? Obviously.
Yes. Yes.
Let's have some fun. Let's have some fun.
Yes.
Okay. Here we go. Let's try.
Awesome. Yay.
Let's do this. How's that?
That is perfect.
Very good. Okay, well, that was a feat. You young people can teach me a little thing or two about technology.
You did so well, Nancy. You've done so well. It's okay. It's only our 10th trial. Anyway, so thank you so much for taking time out for Berries and Tea, this weekly show that I've been hosting since December, and we've had some wonderful speakers sharing their knowledge, their passion, and I'm so honored to have you on board to talk about conscious communication, Kundalini Yoga, and you've been such a huge role model for me in my life, and I'm so thankful for this, and I want all of my audience, my followers, to also meet you and really feel your energy through the screen, because it's so possible.
Sideways.
Yes. So Nancy, tell us a little bit about yourself, and then take us on this journey about conscious communication.
Okay, so I am a Kundalini Yoga teacher and trainer. I am a wellness mentor. I have been married for 20 years. I have 3 teenage children. Once upon a time, I worked in the corporate world. My whole education was geared towards a career in diplomacy. And now I find myself doing what I love, what is my passion, what has moved me, what has transformed me. And that's really to be navigating this wellness space. And that's a little bit about who I am. And it's wonderful to be here. It's always wonderful to have these opportunities to share a little bit about what moves us, and also what so much is rooted in the yogic teachings. And today we're talking about conscious communication.
Da, da, da.
Da, da, da. Not sideways anymore. So just a few things to share. I don't know if you have any questions, or if you just like me to free flow and to share a little bit. So I mean, we can start a little bit with the power of the word Vak Siddhi. This is like the power of our word to just create so much. And as a teacher and as a trainer, we talk a lot about the gift of the word and the gift of the words that we choose. And to communicate consciously, we need to be able to bring awareness into everything that we are and everything that we do. Because if you think about it, you know, words can create and words can destroy. Okay, with one word, you can manifest, you can create. With one word, you can do the complete opposite. So this really is a reflection of the polarity of existence, really. Rising forces, ascending forces, all can be the power.
Uh-oh.
Are you still
Yeah.
with me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, continue. I've got
Okay.
you back.
Great. So, so we talk a lot about the power of the navel and how it's not just about using that throat chakra, which is our communication center, but using
It's freezing up. I'm sure she'll be back soon. This is some vital information for all of us, guys. Nancy, come back. Oh, let us all pray for Nancy to come back and light our paths. It's taking its time. Oh, and she disappeared, you guys. No. Wait, all 10 of you stay there. 11 of you stay where you are. Don't go. She'll be back. Nancy, please stay. Nancy, please, if you're there, send a request to join. Nobody go anywhere. The hippie cheek. Thank you. I love you guys. The 9 of you, please stay. Jano, Jano, you're also here. Oh, this is a struggle. Nancy will kill me. She needs to join live again for me to invite her to be in here. Anyway, until she joins, how are you guys? I'm sure you're not here to listen to me. You're all here to listen to Nancy, and she's gone from my show. I think Berries and Tea needs a studio so I can do these interviews live in person. What do you guys think? If you have any contacts in a studio, let me know. Okay, so Nancy, come back. You guys, wait where you are. I'm just going to send her a message. If I just change windows, you guys will disappear. Don't go. Don't go. Wait. If any of you leave, I will hunt you down. Write me. Archita, could you message to Nancy and say that I'm waiting for her in the studio? Oh my God, it's my studio. How cool is that? You know, it's always been my dream to have my own show live, like on TV. Do you think I'll get there? Studio experience. Archita, can you message Nancy and ask her to come back? Because I'm scared to do that once I leave the window of this live. Well, it's a very exciting live we're having right now. That hasn't happened before, but you know. Okay, here she is. Done. Go live with Nancy.
this is a challenge in communication.
Yes.
Know? This is so actually this brings me to actually really a core point of our topic, which is what to do when we face communication challenges. Okay, so going back, let's talk a little bit first of all, going under the assumption that we're going to be fine for the next little while, about different things that we do when we communicate. So the difference between gossip and gospel, okay, and how much of our energy is dispensed gossiping instead of using the power of our word to manifest and create. So as yogis, we cultivate a lot of awareness of our word, and we learn to recognize when our word is coming from a place of defense, a place of reactivity, from an impulse of ill will or self-defense. And this is why one of the reasons that we chant, so that we can train ourselves to be with the energy of the here and now, as opposed to in that place where we are reacting. So mantra is a way to emerge beyond the ego. So I always say to people, when they come to me and they say, oh, I can't believe that person said this about me, or that just was really, really uncomfortable. I heard so-and-so say something about so-and-so, and suddenly you feel this kind of like aversion to being around that person that has been gossiped about. I always invite people to assess their own level of gossip, because actually to be human is to just kind of talk, and sometimes to be mindless about the way that we talk, and even to assess our own behavior around gossip, our own beliefs around gossip. And one thing that I find really interesting and that really resonated me when I came into the teachings many years ago is that in India, there's something called peanut hour. And peanut hour is a time and place when the women of the village come together and they just speak openly, and they speak openly in that container, in that contained space, so that they can resist the temptation to go into that place where they're venting, and they're venting mindlessly. You know, so if we as human beings, and particularly as women, because we have more of a propensity towards that kind of chit chat, can create these safe containers, we can actually do this kind of safe venting together, so that those words do not come out in that sort of way of ill will, so to speak. So that's one thing that I like.
Peanut hour, I like that.
Peanut hour. And gossip versus gospel. Are you using your word for gospel? Are you using your word to manifest the best, the highest version of yourself? Okay, and that takes a lot of self-awareness. Another thing that is a barrier to conscious communication is lying. Okay, and lies, white lies, are a very, very big part of the way that we communicate as human beings. It's just like, it's part of the storytelling thing. We sometimes lie to avoid confrontation. And I think one of the studies, there's a study that actually demonstrates that for every 10 minutes that we speak, we tell 3 lies.
Wow.
I think it's like, you know, and usually we're telling a lie because we want to tell a consistent kind of story. And it's frequent, it's automatic, we're, you know, it's because we lack discipline, it's because we're not catching ourselves. And it takes a lot of personal sadhana and meditation to actually be truthful. Because if we're not truthful with ourselves, we struggle to be truthful with the other. So again, this is not a, you know, it's just it's a matter of fact. Us humans lie, we lie. And lying is a major barrier of communication. Okay, so just assessing the degree to which we use lies. So we talk about gossip, we also talk about lying. Another thing that is really, really important to consider is the whole notion of speaking versus silence. So I don't know if I can go, yeah.
Yeah, I can learn a little about that.
So isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting about how we tend to speak to fill a vacuum? We speak to fill a gap. We speak to actually evade our discomfort. So noticing when you're speaking, you know, can you remain in that place of actual silence, and the kind of silence where sometimes a few things said well are better than just kind of a string of words that have no impact. So you know that being really choice about our words. Words, well-paced, can create a proportionate mixture of silence that can penetrate right to the heart. You know, so when we're training teachers, an example of this would be when you're leading a class, and as a teacher knowing, for example, when to inject a few words and when to remain silent, when to just simply hold the space for that stillness. A little bit like poetry, you know, when we recite poetry, it's the silence between the verses and that pause where we wait for the next set of verses that gives extra meaning to the words and extra depth to those words. Okay, so just observing how you can use silence versus speaking.
Beautiful. And I think from my experience, Nancy, I tend to fill the gaps of silence quite well. I think I'm a master of that. But I do think that sometimes, but sometimes that silence awkwardness is triggering. So why would that be? You know, let's say it's a gathering of people, and you know, we're all chatting, and then there's a moment of silence, and you just want to quickly fill that gap because my intention is that I don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable. I want everybody to feel at ease and talking, and you know, I don't want there to be any awkwardness.
Yeah. So that anytime you feel discomfort, you are reacting to something. Okay. Whenever we are reacting, we are responding from a place of our complexes, from that place of personality, from that place of ego. And this is what we often refer to as the hidden self. Okay. And the hidden self is like the mask that we wear. And the hidden self is that part of ourselves that we sometimes bury. You know, we bury deep into the basement of our, you know, of our homes. You know, if you think of yourself as a home, and we bury our hidden personality in the basement. And if we don't have awareness around that hidden personality is going to run the show. So I use myself as an example. Growing up, I was a middle child. My brother got a lot of airtime, and my sister, she was really cute, and she's like 4 years younger than me, and so I had to like really kind of work to get that attention. And very unlike my own son, who's 16 years old, and his way of getting attention is just to remain silent. You know, I was the opposite. I was the opposite. I would just dive in, and I was quirky, and I would have all these ideas, and I became this absolute chatterbox. And I did it because it was a way for me to just a little bit compete for the attention of my parents. And that kind of hangover, you could say, continued with me until my later years, and until I began to really learn to just be with myself, and sometimes be even with the discomfort of not having anybody, you know, pay attention to my words, not having anyone take any interest in anything that I had to say. And it's okay, because my role in this life is not to go out and please other people. My role in this life is not to sit and kind of gather that attention, but to really work with all of that old baggage, all of those old complexes, and move through them so that I can actually communicate from the rock that is my true identity, from the rock that is my Sat Nam. So if you're going into that party, Nigora, or into that space where you're like, oh, you know, I feel like I need to be the one just sort of like talking to everybody, or that pro person in the corner, they don't know anyone, or that other person, you know, that could be a response to an old story, or reaction to an old story. So where in your past were either you perhaps not, not fully sort of engaged in a particular situation or set of circumstances, or where in your life did you feel that discomfort of maybe loneliness and not feeling like you could engage? So it could be many different things for you, and just searching for that place inside of you that is even slightly uncomfortable, so that when you do go into those spaces where you are communicating, you're communicating from that space of grace, as opposed to from that space of ego and complexes.
And also, Nancy, you say like the throat chakra is to do with that power of the word, but also the power of the word comes from the navel.
Yes.
And that's an interesting concept. And I want to get your opinion, or maybe confirmation whether that's true or not. Since I started working on my navel, so, doing a lot of stretch poses and working on the strength of my abs and also activating the solar plexus, I really feel that, one, that I became more confident, and two, that sort of there's more abundance in my life in different aspects, not just financial, but different aspects. And also just that the power of the word has been a little bit more enhanced. And is that really to do with the fact that, because all my life I had a very weak tummy, very weak. I couldn't hold stretch pose for 10 seconds. Now I can do, a minute or even more. And I just really feel that has impacted a lot of things in my life. And people are like, no, that can't be true. You just, blah, blah, blah. But I'm like, I really think that this is one of the, the reasons why I feel so good.
Okay. Well, it is probably on many levels your yogic practice, on so many and so many aspects of that. So if you look at the fifth chakra as the fifth element, which is the etheric element, it's also that bridge between the heavens and the earth. And how we engage the other chakras in relation to that fifth chakra is super, super important. So we put a lot of this emphasis on the fifth chakra. But actually, if you're not working on your navel, if you're not raising the energy upwards to create that more, let's say, less obstructed vehicle to go upwards, we are not. We're not working fully. So we can't work with chakras in isolation. Okay, to open up the fifth, we need to be working on our first four chakras. So it's really important. And another thing that I'd like to say on the subject of the fifth chakra is that you can refine your projection as well by engaging your eighth chakra. So in the teachings of Kundalini Yoga, we talk about the eighth chakra, which is also known as the aura, because the radiation from your psyche reaches and communicates who you are. So your very presence speaks. Your very presence communicates. And to communicate with presence, we need a firm identity and a strong aura and an effective frontal lobe. And that requires authenticity. That requires a lot of work on our Satnam. Satnam means truth, and Nam, Sat means truth, Nam means name, my true name. So when we are working from the core of our identity, when we're working from that place of deep authenticity, we're able to really enhance the projection of our eighth chakra and work the fifth chakra with the eighth chakra as well. So all the chakras are actually working together ideally to enhance your ability to communicate, because we spoke about verbal communication. We haven't yet spoken about the nonverbal, right?
Right.
So just think about all the things that we communicate without actually speaking. So in our silence, we're communicating. In our presence, we're communicating. In the way we hold our posture, we're communicating. In the way we hold our gaze, we're communicating. I use my hands a lot. Sometimes I feel like I need to tie them behind my back. But my hands have their own story, right? So can we create enough awareness around ourselves to really know actually what we're saying? So in every moment, every word is choice. Every single word is choice. And that's very, very interesting, but that takes a lot of self-awareness. So when we're working in meditation, for example, when we're chanting together in a group, I always say to people, listen to yourself when you chant and listen to everybody else too. So it's a two-part process. You're chanting, you're vibrating, okay? But you're also listening. You're listening to the frequency and you're listening to everybody else too. This is a training ground. Those chants, those mantras are a training ground for you to learn to listen. And that can help to carry you into a place of deep listening. So what do you think it takes to actually deeply listen? Because conscious communication is not just about me speaking to you and you getting it, me communicating. It's about you also listening. But in order for me to penetrate, in order for me to communicate, I need to have the capacity to listen myself. So what does deep listening actually look like? Any idea? Do you know when you've been listened to?
Yeah, there's
Do you
like
know the difference?
well, I maybe I can assume, I don't know if I'm right, but maybe deep listening could be, that the body language, the eyes, that intense sort of gaze and really understanding what, I mean, that's how I listen. I sort of really go into that person's words and, yeah, correct me.
So we use the word sunya. Sunya is the intuition that is applied to our listening. So it's more than just hearing the words. It's actually applying total presence and using our intuitive knowing to hear and to see and to experience what that other person is saying, which is so much more than just hearing the words, because sometimes people say things, but actually that's not what they're really saying. And to be able to tap into what that person is saying, I need to have the capacity to hear and experience all of it. So how much do I deeply listen? And, when has listening removed blocks in my life? And I can think of countless instances in my own life where I had these moments of just like, I get it now. I've been married for 20 years. How much deep listening it takes to actually stay with somebody, to hear what they have to say, to understand where they're coming from, to feel and experience everything. And to trust as well that you're never going to 100% get it. Because you're not sitting inside of that person. That person is experiencing the world through a completely different looking glass, through a completely set of lenses. The cinema reel in Nigora, in the cinema reel of my mind, is different from Nancy in the cinema reel in Nigora's mind. And how we relate to each other comes from our life experience, comes from our social conditioning, comes from so many other aspects of who we are, which is radical. I once had a moment, maybe 10 years ago, that was like a big aha, where I realized actually that we spend a lot of time anticipating, a lot of time actually projecting just our own existence, our own ideals, our own thoughts, our own
Oh, Nancy, hold on. Your voice has gone. Nancy, your voice has gone. Yeah, someone's calling you. Yeah, that you can continue. Yeah. Oh, wait. I can't hear you. I can't hear you. That's another communication challenge we have. I can't hear you. This is crazy. What happened to your sound? I think Nancy, maybe leave and join again. You guys, this interview is just a prime example of what goes on in communication between partners and in business, in companies. Nancy, do you want to leave and then join again? Yeah. It's okay. We're doing so good. It's fine. We're just really representing the true experience of communication. Are you back? Say something. Exit and come back. Yes, Nancy. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Okay, she'll be back. The 10 of you that are still here, wait. Don't go anywhere, because I think this is so powerful what we're learning. And this is what happens, you know, you sometimes we listen to someone and we don't hear what they're saying, because as Nancy says, we're projecting, or we are already anticipating what is coming back and what will come back to us, and it might be a completely different story. So let's see if she'll be able, yeah, there she is, Nancy.
It's so interesting that our topic is communication. And I very rarely have these kinds of challenges, like when it comes to technology.
I mean, I've had 17 episodes and we've never had an issue like this. It's crazy. And I was just saying whilst you were exiting and joining back, is that this is exactly what happens, you know, because you say we anticipate, or we already preempty the expectation or the communication back. The person is talking and we don't hear. Like, I couldn't hear you right now, you know, and
Exactly.
and that's what happens. It's just crazy.
So you know what's really interesting? I was at a dinner about 5 days ago, and there were a group of about 4 women, and 2 of them were quite chatty, and it was so interesting because what was actually happening was there was like a competition for people to get their voice in, to get to be heard, and 2 of the women didn't even notice that the other 3 weren't communicating, and there was no exchange actually taking place. What ended up happening was that you had 5 women actually talking at each other, because there was this just place of like anticipation all the time. And of course, I had this moment where I just sort of I exited, and then I came back, and I just laughed about it, because it's something that we do. It's something that we do. We're anticipating all the time. We're constantly trying to find ways to be heard. And in doing that, we quash our capacity to listen. We quash our capacity to fully engage. How often do we actually do that? And how that stands as a barrier to conscious communication is really, it's quite extraordinary. And that's just like a real life example of how you get a bunch of people together and people start talking at each other instead of actually stopping and listening to what the other person has to say.
And I think another thing, Nancy, I guess I can share from my own example that happened recently, where I was sharing something quite personal, and they in a group of people, and the other person, although a close friend, and was not hearing the sensitivity of what I was saying, and was sort of throwing in jokes into that personal topic that I was sharing, and that also I couldn't really stand up for that. You know, I just left it at that, but it did really leave me with an aftertaste that, oh wow, I don't think I was heard. I don't think, like, I didn't appreciate that this topic is so sensitive to me, and there were jokes flown around it, and that also comes, what is that? Is that the sort of inactive listening, or maybe my word wasn't really as strong as it should have been, you know, although they're listening.
So one thing that is in the realm of conscious communication that we speak a lot about is that we can experience communication from different aspects of ourselves. So I spoke earlier about the hidden self. So you've got the hidden self, and that is constructed of the beliefs, of the complexes that we made up about ourselves early in life. And then we have the shadow personality. The shadow personality is like, it's a step above the hidden self, but it's like when we're kind of like lurking in the mud, and we know that whatever it is that we're saying or experiencing in that moment is coming from a darker aspect of ourselves. Okay. Then we have the persona. The persona is the mask that we go out and that we wear in the world. It's like, yeah, I'm Nancy, and I'm, X, Y, and Z, and, all the titles and all the accomplishments and all the achievements, the mask. And then there is the higher self, the real identity, the truth of who you are, the authentic you. Okay. So in that moment when you are feeling like you weren't heard, okay, what might have been happening was you might have activated an old wound in that moment of like, okay, when in my life was I not fully heard? When in my life could I have used validation? When in my life did I not have the validation that I needed? And it's usually early on in like the first 10 years of our life are instrumental in helping us to create those constructs and those limiting beliefs, right? That person could very well have been completely present for you. But in that moment, an activated wound could have been present, something that is old. And if you don't have awareness around it, you're going to get uncomfortable. You're going to get triggered. You're going to get reactive. And an old pattern might also kick in. You might go into withdrawal, or you might decide, what's the point? And these might have been old ways of kind of managing your emotions. So just noticing anytime you feel like you're not heard, what that's about. And is this a vehicle, whatever was going on in that relationship or in that dialogue, is this a safe container for me to communicate all that I am? Is that person fully present, or is that person sort of, on their mobile phone while I talk, while I pour out my heart and soul? Is the context ideal? Is that person deeply listening, actively listening? And what is it in me that is reactive in this moment? Am I bringing a reaction to this moment, or am I bringing the highest version of myself to this moment? Because there's a difference. There's a difference. So what is the mantra or phrase or affirmation that I can remember in those moments of discomfort? Maybe having something that works for you to help you stay out of that place where the hidden self can kind of wreak havoc. Can bring out its old, its old agendas, and get you into a place where you're suddenly finding yourself deeply triggered.
Yeah, that's definitely something I would like to think about, and find that space that I can go in when I do feel uncomfortable, the sort of the affirmation or the mantra that I can utilize. Thank you for that.
So a great mantra, Nigora, is everyone, I always tell people to find a mantra that really resonates with them, but one that's like easy is I am. I am. I am.
Yeah.
And when we just chant the mantra repeatedly, I am, I am, I am, we've got the finite identity of I am, and there's the infinite identity of I am. But when we repeat the mantra, I am, I am, I am, I am, instead of going into our ego constructs, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I'm a mentor, I'm a trainer, I'm a this, I'm a that, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer. It's I am what I am. So in that moment, I am, I am, I am.
Yes.
So that's a mantra that can resonate in those moments where we have this tendency or to go into knee-jerk reactions, and where we end up really reacting in a situation as opposed to responding in a situation where we might be triggered. Because actually we're going into the old identity of I'm a little boy, or I'm a little girl, or I'm this, I am that. So notice what aspect of you is coming out and whether there's a hidden agenda associated with what it is that you're communicating. It's quite interesting, right? It's like,
very interesting.
To know what my hidden agenda is, I need to be sitting on that mat, really working through my karmas in this lifetime, working through all of my shadowy stuff. And we all have it. None of us are immune to it. But actually embracing that part of ourselves that is human. Okay, I know that this is a part of me. Let me try to keep it clean so that I can keep my own side of the street clean when I communicate with people, when I'm in dialogue, when I'm in a relay with someone. We talk a lot about relay, like, what a relay is? Like a relay, running relay, or when you compete.
Like a competition.
Yeah, exactly. So you're passing a baton from one person to the next. Yeah, like so in communication, there can be a relay, right? There can be a back and forth, a passing of the baton. But we need to be fully present and fully aware of the presence that we're bringing in that moment to be able to, 1, communicate effectively, 2, communicate without even using words, 3, to look and really feel and understand what aspects of our hidden personality might be coming into that space. Okay, all right, can I clear my way? Can I find my way? Can I get to the root of who I am? Can I communicate from the rock that is my true identity, free from all of the complexes? And then, sifting through what is gossip, what is lying, what is exaggerated, and then deeply listening. In order to deeply listen to somebody else, I need to first learn to deeply listen to myself. Like, wow, okay, how much time have I actually spent deeply listening to myself? So if I'm not heard in a context, in a situation, it's so easy to have the knee-jerk reaction of, oh, it's their fault. They're not listening. They're not hearing me. But can I listen to myself in that moment? Can I really deeply listen to myself? And this is where we use...
Yes, please continue, Nancy.
Yeah. This is where we use the power of meditation to bring us into that state of deep listening.
Yeah. So I think what I was also wanting to say is that the task for me for this week will be to really, I think it's also slowing down.
Yeah.
Because we're always in such a rush, just by default, rushing to complete tasks, to do this, to get there, to get here. And by default, in my personal experience, I feel like I need to speak faster. And then when you speak faster, you just throw words out that sometimes, like you say, have no impact at all. So I think really just slowing down, not just with action and tasks and whatever, but mostly slowing down and how you talk and how you process stuff, and really just putting a lot of conscious effort into just put the gears down and really, really slow down. And I think that's when I'll realize that, am I even listening to myself? You know, when I'm talking, because sometimes you talk so fast, you're not even listening to yourself, like that, you know, and then, as you say, then you blame the other person for not listening to you. But what did you just say? You know, so I think that will be my biggest takeaway, and maybe for others as well, to really just not slow down in your tasks and your daily routine, but really slow down in how you talk and the words you choose and how you process things, so that you can activate that deep listening within, and in turn activate the deep listening of others as well. Would that be a good path to take, Nancy, as a first step?
It would be a beautiful path to take, a beautiful path to take. To, you know, there's a reason why we practice Vipassana, you know, in the teachings in the yogic teachings, you know, so that we can go into that place of silence. When we come out of that maybe 7-day space of silence, sometimes 2-week space of silence, we can really actually communicate. And some golden rules for harmonious communication. If you were to just remember that everything that you say could be a possibility for communicating for a better tomorrow, okay? And remembering as well that whatever you're going to say is going to live forever. So if you're going to say it, be prepared to live through it, whatever it is that you say. And that one wrong word can change anything. It can change everything. It has tremendous power. And don't ever underestimate the power of a single word. So really being mindful. And when you take the responsibility for everything that you say, for that total presence, for deeply listening, just how much more harmony you can bring to your day-to-day communication. You know,
Absolutely.
there's so much that we could say, Nigora, about communication. It's just like we barely scratched the surface.
Yeah.
But I would say certainly as a yogi, that my recommendation is to really spend more time in that space of deep listening, and to cultivate more of a listening space for yourself in whatever way that means. You know, if it means that it's on the mat, if it means that when you go into the shower every day, you play your mantra music, the mantra that most resonates with you right now. If it's to actually say to yourself and to have post-it notes all over your house saying, listen, listen, you know, friend calls you, listen, you know, it's not for you to talk, you to anticipate, but for you to be fully present. You could do it for a week. You could even take a vow of silence for 2 days or 1 day or even 6 hours. But yeah, cultivating that space of deep listening is a really amazing place to start.
And would it be possible to end this interview by you repeating the golden rules of conscious communication?
Golden rules? There are so many, by the way. So the golden rules as summarized by us today?
Yeah.
Yeah. So just going back, like when you communicate for a better tomorrow. Be mindful of your words, okay? Remember that everything that you're going to say is going to last forever. Be mindful of using your words for gospel. I love that word gospel instead of gossip, because they sound the same, yet they have completely different connotations. Create safe spaces for venting so that you don't find yourself in the mud of gossip. The deep listening will help you to bring more awareness to the degree to which you tell those little white lies. You throw them in for storytelling capacity. Notice where that comes from, okay? So notice and observe the degree to which you bring a few lies in here and there to embellish your stories, to embellish that context of communication. Begin to observe your hidden agenda, your hidden personality. Notice which aspect of your personality is ruling a particular context. Notice and bring more awareness to the complexes that dictate your reactions and therefore stand as a barrier to your ability to communicate consciously. And of course, learn to cultivate a space of deep listening. Deep listening. This is like barely scratching the surface, but it's a little bit in summary of what we've shared today. You know?
I think if we can all start with that, we'll be going in the right direction.
It's a great place to start. And another great place to start if you're kind of like struggling to speak up is just to have an experience of a chanting class, a class where you're going to chant, a class where you're going to hear people chanting. It's a great, great exercise in developing not just your capacity to witness, but also your capacity to deeply listen both to yourself and to others. So get to a class, go to Nigora's class, come and see us, have an experience of these incredible teachings. And
the teachings are really so powerful, absolutely, transformative. But the transformation happens so subtly.
Yeah.
It's like a really slow, invisible sort of mountain pushing you forward and forward without you even realizing that's that has been the experience in my life. And I'm still growing, still developing and learning more within the practice. But yes, as Nancy says, like, it's absolutely recommended to everybody to try Nancy's classes on Mondays, right?
Yes. At Nilaya House on Mondays at 10 a.m. And it's just have an experience of hearing yourself chant, have an experience of going into silence, have an experience of listening to the other. We probably didn't touch on all the golden rules that we talked about today, but silence is another one that we spoke about. So it's cultivating awareness. We do this so that we can operate from the best, highest version of ourselves. So that we can bring consciousness to everything that we do and everything that we say. And so that our presence, we talked also about presence, Nigora, so that our presence can speak to us. As you say, this practice works very subtly, and you kind of always have you can feel when somebody's actively practicing. You can feel when somebody's been on a particular path, working on themselves, looking to upgrade themselves in different ways, and committed to that process. And that's the power also of our projection, the power of our 8th chakra that also speaks for us, communicates for us.
I think the only negative thing about being within the Kundalini sort of daily practice and working on yourself and growing, that it's really difficult to date, Nancy.
It's difficult to date. Oh.
It's because you're just in a different space, you just feel so ecstatic about life, you're tapping into your powers, you're working on your mental strength during, the toughest kriyas, and you're chanting and you're sitting there for 2.5 hours and doing, this is a lot of agility and resilience that we're working on. And then it's very difficult to, well, I don't know, maybe in my perception, but it's just so, it's challenging to connect with someone who doesn't understand what you're doing or what you're going through. And you know.
So I mean, one thing that I would say to that is patience is a virtue. Patience is a virtue, and you know, you might not necessarily meet someone in that context or within that context who understands that context. And guess what? It's not necessarily a prerequisite to good relationship or to healthy relating for them to be on the same path as you or to understand it fully. I feel that what is a much more important ingredient is just respect, just fundamental respect for who you are, and remembering that, you know, if you are going to go out and meet someone and you're looking to sort of engage in something long term, that it's not about just facing each other in life. It's about being side by side and facing an altar, a shared altar maybe, and there might be different things on that altar, right? So it can feel like initially it can feel a bit isolating because we're so comfortable in these beautiful spaces and we feel a lot of wholeness in that space, but to also trust that the souls that are meant to present themselves into our lives will, and it'll happen in context that we can barely even imagine, beyond anything the finite mind would have us know. You know, you might meet him in an elevator. You might meet him walking out of a class one day. You know, you might find yourself attending a gathering that you said, oh, you know what, I don't want to go tonight. I'm too tired. And then you dragged yourself out and you found yourself there, and there he was. So just opening oneself up to the infinite possibilities that come when we continue to do the work on ourselves. And when we remain committed on a path that helps to make us feel whole. So.
Okay, so I will take on all this advice and I'm sure other people will as well. And this was so wonderful. Thank you so much, Nancy. Although we had so many hiccups, but the hiccups were truly representing the challenges in real life that we have with communication. So I think this was ideal.
So one thing I didn't mention is persistence and resilience. So,
yes,
you know, we could have given up after like the first 2 tries, but we didn't.
yeah.
We hung in there. So staying power is super, super, super important. Yeah. Don't give up. Don't give up on different ways to communicate. Don't give up on that possibility that comes when we stick something out. You know, I say this after 20 years of marriage, you know, and I have those moments of like, that's it, I'm done. You know, I'm done. And then, you know, you come back and you find a new way. You find a new way.
So deep listening, don't give up, and slow down. I think these are 3 takeaways I will take into my personal routine and into my habits. And I'm sure all of you have taken something away from this beautiful conversation that we had. And thank you so much, Nancy. Thank you.
Thank you for your patience with me.
No, and hopefully maybe in a few months' time we can come together again and talk about some other relevant topics that certainly there's so many topics that you and I could discuss and share with others. So I'd love to have you on again. But for now, thank you so much, and I will see you in our Sangat gatherings.
I look forward to that. Lots of love, and see you very, very soon.
Thank you, Nancy. Bye, everybody. Bye.
Bye, Satnam.